Look, it's a huge topic and story today, and a fascinating one for a number of reasons. Coach K retiring, announcing that this upcoming year will be his last is really the way that I should phrase that. He'll coach this next season, and then Jon Scheyer, a former Blue Devil who is the associate head coach at Duke right now, is going to take over. Duke has announced that now officially as well. But when it comes to how it relates back to K-State, I think one of the most fascinating parts about it is the reasoning that Coach K gave, or that those around Coach K have given for why the time was now. Now, like I believe it's 74, so it's not like Coach K was long for the college basketball world anyway. But here is from Jeff Goodman. He says, quote, "He is obviously nearing the end of his career, but name, image, and likeness coming into college basketball and the transfer portal being out of control definitely sped up his timeline." Source close to Coach K told at Stadium. So that's very interesting, because Roy Williams gave some voice to that when he retired. He said that the transfer portal and other changes in college basketball confirmed his decision. Said it wasn't why he decided to retire, but it confirmed his decision. Even Lon Kruger, there had been some buzz about that being a factor there for another longtime coach. So you have this wave of longtime coaches who are saying to hell with dealing with the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness and what the game is turning into. I think the undercurrent of all of that, too, especially if you want to be more cynical, which I think it's earned cynicism, is how much of this is, well, the FBI investigation has happened, and now it's more difficult to cheat. If you're trying to cheat and bring guys in, that may be another part of this as well that no one obviously is going to give voice to publicly. But we've heard Bruce Weber give voice to the exact same things that now we're seeing referenced in Coach K's retirement and Roy Williams' retirement. Here was Bruce Weber not that long ago. This was about 2 months ago, a little less than 2 months ago, on Wildcat Insider. Bruce on how much he really hates the transfer portal and what's happening.
To be honest, I don't like it. I think you're going to see, Roy Williams brought it up. Lon, you got some of these really good coaches that have been in it a long time. I'm not sure they want to mess with it. You finish your season. Instead of trying to relax, all you're doing is, trying to recruit your kids.
It's a fair point and a fair criticism, and I have some level of sympathy for saying, hey, like, if you're a coach, you work these exhausting hours, you get through your season, the one little gap that you may have during an entire year to have some downtime, now you have to spend it re-recruiting your own players, and you just have to always be on high alert. I have some sympathy for that. Now, you're also making 6 or 7 figures. You're making a lot of money to deal with those problems, but I can understand why you would be upset by that. The point is, though, the game is changing, and it's just a reality. That's not going anywhere. You're going to have to deal with it. It's why Coach K and Roy Williams are saying, well, I don't have the energy at this stage of my career with everything I've accomplished and done to put up with that. Bruce seems to be really insinuating that, too. And so I would take it back to all the retirement rumors that were being thrown about at the end of the season, and we had to ask Bruce about those at the Big 12 tournament. They were there for a reason. He is getting up there in age. Obviously, the program had been going through a tough period of time the last 2 years, but also, like, when he speaks publicly about the changes that the game is taking on, we hear him talk like this. He's an old school coach. The game is no longer being played that way. The game is no longer, we're really talking more about how it goes off the court. It's just not the same as it was back when he was a bench coach for Gene Cady. And even though I am of a younger crowd and more of the mindset that I think some of these changes can actually be good for the game and are the right thing to do and better, we're doing right by the players, it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Bruce Weber thinks. And if he can't put up with it, if he doesn't want to deal with it, if he is the old school coach that's not going to change here in his 60s, which how many people do change that much in their 60s? Not likely. Then there are going to be retirement rumors because you're speaking in the same tone, in the same way, in the same context that these coaches who are of the same generation of you are speaking on their way out the door. So it just all leads me to believe, I mean, a lot of it I'm sure will be dictated by what happens and how much success this next group at K-State actually has. But I would not think that Bruce Weber is terribly long for the college basketball coaching world just because of having to deal with this. Other coaches are doing the same thing. We're seeing the same thing from this older generation. Bruce is in lockstep with them on how he feels about it all. He's just the guy that's still hanging on right now as a coach. I'll be very interested to see how this plays out. He can make fun of the retirement rumors, and it was funny when he did it at the Big 12 tournament, but when things like this are said and coaches keep dropping like flies on this stuff, the retirement questions are going to continue to circulate and come up.
Coach K is 74, Roy Williams is 70, Lon Kruger is 68, Bruce Weber is 64. And we're at a time in our lives now where technology is as great as it has ever been. And technology now, these kids are getting more advice through that technology from social media, from people keeping in conversation with them through text message and on social media. Those words are starting to mean a lot more than the coach's words when it's one-on-one and they're speaking to each other about the future of what is it going to take for them to stick around. It's got to be frustrating to where that is the point where they're trying their hardest after working a year or two, maybe even more than that, with these guys on the floor, speaking to them every day, and yet they're getting this advice from the outside saying, hey, you could do better somewhere else. It's got to be frustrating and to the point where they don't want to deal with that kind of stress anymore. Just too old to deal with it.
Which I get. I understand. It just means you're either going to be the crotchety guy sticking around complaining about it while the game passes you by, or you retire. And so I just don't think that day is terribly far around the corner based on everything else we're seeing in the college basketball world and where Bruce seems to be at.